Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the session where we are going to talk about associations using Active Records. How do you connect two models together? And to finish off this talk, we will cover the concept of nested routes within Rails, which will allow us to create resources that are sort of linked to another resource. Okay, we'll see that in just a moment. But first of all, let's talk about the various type of associations we can set up for our models with Rails. Where's my window? There it is. Yeah, there we go. So you've seen how to create models with Active Records already. What I want to cover right now is essentially the various relationships or associations that you can have within your models. And this is the list of all the associations that you can create within Active Record. You have a has one relationship, has many, belongs to, has one through another table, has many through, and has and belongs to many table. Now let's see how we actually get this to work within the context of Rails. So whenever you generate, whenever you need to link two tables together, you'll probably have to create a migration for that. If you didn't specify the relationship between the two table when you were creating the model, you will have to create a new migration in which you're going to add a line that basically sets up the connection between one table and the other. In this example here, we are setting up the has one relationship between a user and the accounts table, right? So we're building this application where users will have, you know, according to our data model, we want a user to have a single account. So we set up a has one relationship between user and the account. The way you set that up is in the migration file, you need to set up, you need to add this line that sort of sets the relationship between user and the accounts table. So when we create this table here, we need to tell it that this account belongs to a user. Okay. And in the model itself, you need to put in this line, this line of code here that says this user has one account. Okay. And when you do that, it will sort of like create the link between both models. Now, what it looks like in terms of a diagram, this is what a typical has one relationship would look like, because just as a reference, because you will be building this before you actually make these things, you need to build ERD diagrams, right? So this is what a relationship will look like. Okay, so a supplier has one account. Okay, so that's for has one. The way you define has many relationship is pretty much the same thing. In terms of the migration file, you can see that there's no difference between the has one and has many. Okay. In this context here, we are setting up relationship between a user and an article to say that a user has many articles. So migration file looks the same. We just add the same line here. And in the model itself, you need to say that, this user has many articles. Okay. The reason why you want to do that is because as soon as you put this line here in your model, it will automatically expose a number of methods that will allow you to manipulate articles that belong to a specific user just by getting the user itself. So as you get the user, you can query the articles that are linked to that specific user. And I'm going to show you that in the example that we will have in a couple of moments. Okay. For both those relationship, when we set up a has one between a user and account, The other side of the model, which means on the account side, you need to specify that the account belongs to the user. This is where the belongs to comes into play. So when we set up has many articles on the article model, we need to say that the article belongs to a user. Okay. Note that the belongs to here we're using the singular key for user. When we're specifying has many, we are using the plural because, of course, it is many articles, right? And then when we're specifying one, we are using the plural, the singular version as well, right? So that's for has many, has one, and belongs to relationship. We will illustrate that with an example that I've been working on. Just a moment. But before we get to the demo, I want to talk about another relationship, which is the has many and belongs to relationship. Okay, so in this context, for instance, we have two models. The one model is a dinosaur, okay, and the associated model to the dinosaur is going to be a bone, right? So in order to set up the relationship between the model and the bones, we want to make use of the has many and belongs to relationship, okay? So the way we do this is considering we have a dinosaur model already, we want to generate the bone model, and when we're using the generator for the bone model, we are specifying that we want this bone, right, to belong to a dinosaur. Okay, so it generates for us this migration file, and because we are using this one way of specifying relationships in the previous examples here, we were using belongs to. The other way you can set those connection is by using a t.references. Okay, so this will set up the connection between the two table as well, just like the belongs to does. Okay, and the schema file that is generated will look something like this, where we have the bones table with all the fields that we need for that, and we can see that in the dinosaur table we also have so here we have a dinosaur ID to mark that this bone will belong to a dinosaur, and in the dinosaur table we'll also sort of like on the Ruby side of things set up the connection between this table and the other table. Okay, so this is all for migrations. Here's the schema that's generated. When it comes to the models, we need to 2 lines to say we have, so the bone belongs to a dinosaur and the dinosaur has many bones. Okay, so here we are setting a has many relationship with a belongs to relationship. Right, now once you do this, I mentioned earlier on that Rails will automatically expose some methods from for you to sort of like make use or extract various information. When we create a dinosaur, for instance, if we have some bones associated to the dinosaur, we can simply call the method bones. Just because we have this has many bones on dinosaur, every instance of the dinosaur class will have this method to it, right? So by calling this method, we will get a collection. That collection is probably going to be an array of all the bones that belongs to this dinosaur, and vice versa. If you want to get if you have a bone and you want to see what dinosaur is linked to that bone, you can just call dinosaur on the bone itself. Okay, because we have this validation on here, whenever you're creating a bone, for instance, you need to give it a dinosaur in order to create it. So otherwise, it fails. Right. As soon as you set up a relationship between two models, you need to create whenever you're creating the dependent model, you need to pass in the parent class here. So because a bone belongs to a dinosaur, you can't create a bone without associating it to a dinosaur. If you try this, it's going to fail because it wants to be linked to a dinosaur. Okay, so you can either create it like this, or from a bone. We can also create a dinosaur like this. So because of the relationship that we have here, we have a create underscore something that is, given to us by default with Rails. Okay. Right. Now that we have this out of the way, I want to quickly talk about the concept of nested route before I show you how this is all working in an application. Because we have two models that are linked together. In this context, we have a dinosaur and a bone. You can sort of like imagine a situation where we want to create bones from a web interface, right? So we would probably visit the page and then sort of like go to the show page of a dinosaur, and on that page we would have options to add bones to that dinosaurs, right? There are many ways of solving these problems, but the recommended way of doing this is by using the concept of nested resources, because it sort of like generates clean routes, to interact with models that are linked with each other. Okay, and it will also make your life a little bit easier when it comes to generating forms and so on and so forth. So in the context of the dinosaurs and bones, the way you generate nested routes for manipulating those resources is pretty much by we still use the resources keyword, which will generate the routes for our dinosaurs as we are used to them, right? But because the bones depend on a dinosaur, we are gonna pass in a block to this resources, okay? And inside that block, we define resources for bones. The result of this is that we are gonna generate. If you see here, we only generated the show view for bones here. So the resulting route for that is gonna be a route that starts with the dinosaurs, right? And then you need to pass in an ID for the dinosaur you want to see, right? Then you can call in the bones and pass in the ID of the bone that you want to see. Okay, so that means you will get these two parameters passed in to your controller. And in order to get the bone, you'll first get the dinosaur that is associated with this ID, right? And then from that, you can find the associated bone that match this bone ID here. Okay, and then you still get the normal routes for interacting with dinosaurs on their own. Okay. In addition to that, you get some helper methods to generate path. Remember that we had these helper method that Rails provide us to get path to a certain resource. When it comes to nested resources, because bones are nested into dinosaurs, when we want to get the dinosaur bone path, we need to give it the ID of the dinosaur itself and the bone that we want to make use of. If you want to get the dinosaur's path, you can still do that by passing in the path to, well, the ID of that dinosaur. Okay, this is probably a lot of confusing things, but let's see how that works in this concept here. Right. So I have this application here, and just for brevity, I've already set up the features that we want to get passing here, right? So given we have a dinosaur right? We have this dinosaur here, and it belongs to a museum. Um, the scenario that we want to work on is creating a bone that belongs to this dinosaur, right? So first of all, we're gonna visit Jack's dinosaurs page, right? And then we should see this title to specify that we are on the show page for Jack, and we shouldn't see bones listed there because we haven't created any bones yet, right? Um, when I click on add bone, then I should see new bone for Jack. So I will be redirected to a page where I can create bones, and then I will be able to fill in, a name for my bone and submit that. And then I should be redirected to a page where I will see Jack's bone and the name of the bone that was created. Okay. Uh, now, if we run, I think I probably have to trails drop db create db migrate. Right, good stuff. Migration completed. If we run Cucumber here, we will get some suggestions for the step definitions. When the computer decides to actually speed up the theme. All right, great. So it wants us to create those steps. I actually have those steps already defined. So what I'm going to do is just uncomment them. There's nothing new here for you guys. I'm probably just going to comment out some of these to explain what's going on here. Right. So when we run this, we're going to get a few failures. I don't know why everything is just so slow nowadays, eh? I guess our computers are also tired since it's the end of the year. Maybe. Time for a break. Okay. So we were able to create a dinosaur. We were able to visit the page for that dinosaur. But then we didn't see this text, right? So part of the reason why we don't see this text, let's see if we're actually getting on that page. Then I should see that thing. Then show. Oh, let's see. Show me a page, and I'm gonna implement that step here quickly. Right. Right. Okay, let's copy this. There. Save and open page. I'm just gonna make sure that we have the Launchy gem. Do we have that? No, we don't have it. So gem. and bundle, and we can run that again, and hopefully we can see what's wrong with our page. Right, so while it's doing this, I just want to point out that first step, where we assume that we have this, you would obviously have to generate the model for that. Okay, in the step definition, we get the table and we use factory girl, well, factory bot to create the dinosaur. The migration for that looks something like this. So create dinosaur, nothing new here. We add some attributes to the dinosaur, a name, age, museum number, right? And we can move on. So the page that was displayed to us is a blank page, right? So let's have a look at the view for the dinosaur. We clearly see that we have this here, but why isn't it showing the name? I should be able to find path. No element was found. All right, let's have a look at the controller dinosaur. Oh, dinosaurs controller. We have the show action that is getting, let's see that we are getting this. Okay, let's comment this for now. Run Cucumber again. Doop, 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 doop. Okay. So for some reason it's not getting into, it's not even getting to the page. So that means there's something wrong with our routes. Okay, so let's have a look at that. What do we get? Right, so dinosaurs show action. Given I visit that, basic steps. Right, because I commented this out. It's giving us a false positive. Right, so what needs to happen in this step here, we're getting the dinosaur name, right? In order for us to visit that page, we need to find the dinosaur. Okay, so we're using the where method to find the dinosaur that has this name, and we want to get the first one. We could do this another way by using the find by name, and then we can drop this first here. And so once we have the dinosaur, we can use the helper method to go to the dinosaur's page. Okay, so we're getting the dinosaur and then we're passing it to this path here. With that in place, should probably mark this as pending, just to avoid turning around again later on. And let's see what we get this time. Oh, of course, I ran the wrong command. Okay, so that executes fine, but this time around I get missing. Right. Why do I get this value all of a sudden? Missing secret keybase for test environment. Set this value in config secret. Okay, whatever. Let's fix that. Config secret. I don't have a file like that. I might as well just create it. new file, secret YAML, and we're gonna do rake BRLs secret keybase. In the recent versions of Rails, this file is already generated for you. Okay, so this demo is using a pre-old version, so you won't have to do this. Now, if I Rails Cucumber, it should go through and not ask us for that secret key anymore. And let's see. Right, I need to say this is for test environment. Run that. Come on, really? Anyway, okay, so let's have a look at the Rails demo. There it is. I'm just gonna config secret file. Let's see what the structure of this file looks like. Oh, I called it secret. It has to be secrets. Rename. Yes. Just to be sure. So we need to have development test. All right, the rest should pass. Okay. Run this again. All right, cool. So we're hitting the show method now. I can get rid of that binding pry. So if we continue here, now we are at the stage where we're trying to add a bone, okay? So let's get rid of this. So what needs to happen now is we get to the page for that dinosaur, and we don't see the list of bones, but then we want to click on a link to create a new bone for this dinosaur, right? At this stage, it was unable to find the link. So how do we get that link? We go to the show page. We need to make sure that we have this link here that will sort of like, go to the new page for new dinosaur bone path. If you remember this listing here, right? So, and then we pass in the dinosaur because the route that we want to get is a route that looks something like this. So we have dinosaurs slash the ID of the dinosaur, let's say 1, and then bones slash new. Okay. So this is the path that we want to generate. Okay. So when we try this, it should complain that we don't have a route defined for that. We will go ahead and set that up by adding the block here. I'm just going to type this while it's running on that side, okay? Just to avoid too many, right? It says unable to find link, add bone. Oh, it's still running there. All right, cool. So we're going to have this bones, and we want only the show page. Oh, we want new, and we want show. Why is it taking so much time to run this? It failed because, okay. Failed because I modified this file while it was starting up. Let's see. I need to do something about the boot time of this application. It takes too much time to start up. Okay, so now it tells us that we don't have this method defined is because we don't have the route. This route hasn't been defined yet, right? So now we can go ahead and set up this route. And in doing this, if we do Rails route, we will see that we now have the necessary routes to execute that action. Okay, so we have new dinosaur bone, and the route for that is going to be this one. And we are going to need a post method to submit that, right? So next up, if we run Cucumber again, we will get to the next stage where we actually get to the page, and then we try to fill in the name of the bone with this and submit the form. Okay. Now, so that went through because this is what the view looks like. So here's the view. We need to uncomment that. And the form to create this this dinosaur, I mean this bone, is a little bit special. Okay, if you remember what we did yesterday when we were creating articles, we had something that looked like form 4, right? And then we would just specify articles and get this. But in this context, because we are creating a bone and the bone belongs to a dinosaur, we need to, when creating this form, we need to pass in the dinosaur that is going to own this bone, and then a new bone object from which we will have these two fields. Now, this is going to do a couple of things for us. But before I show you the resulting form, I want to show you the controller for this action. So in in bones, so we need to look at the bones controller. In the bones controller, what we need to do is, first of all, find the dinosaur for which we want to create a bone. Okay, remember that we're getting that. If we look back at the route that was generated here, we have a dinosaur ID, so that means we can get the ID of the dinosaur to which we want to add a bone, right? So we first get that dinosaur from the database. We store that in this instance variable. Then we create a new bone, right? Which is associated to this dinosaur, okay? And we store that in this instance variable. These two instance variables are then passed onto this new form, okay? And we are using it. We are using it here. First of all, we're using the dinosaur object here to display, to make sure that we are on the new bone for a specific dinosaur, and then we set up the form here. Okay. So the next step for that is going to be filling up the name and then pushing the submit button. I'm going to put back the show page here, or before the submit, show you what gets generated as a result of this. Right, so that executes. Right, and then this is the page we see. and the form that gets generated looks like this. Now, if I inspect this form to see what it looks like, in the body, we have this form here. We can see that, let's put this on the side here and have a look at this. So this one here will generate us this form tag, right? With this, the following action. The action for this is going to be dinosaur, and we pass in the ID of the dinosaur that we want to modify, followed by bones. So this is going to match this route here. Okay. The next thing that it does is that it's going to, I think it adds, well, I don't see that here. We have a hidden field. So this is just a validation field. Okay, but the dinosaur thing is encoded in this URL already, right? If you had to do this without using the nested route implementation, you'd probably have to generate the form on which you would manually set up a hidden field to take the dinosaur ID, okay? And you would have to extract that later on your controller. But this is a much cleaner way of doing that. So now we can submit. I think the next step would be to submit the form, and then we should be on the show page. We should go back to the show page for the dinosaur. Let's see what happens when we submit that form. When we submit the form, we hit the create method. In the create method, we need to first of all get the dinosaur, right? That is linked to, that is to which we're going to add this bone. And then on that one, we will basically create a new bone, right? To which we're going to set the dinosaur and the name that we received from the form, and then try to save that. If the save is successful, we will redirect to the dinosaur path. In this case, I don't handle the SAT path, which would be go back to the form so that the user can fix the errors. Okay. The step definition for this should look something like, let's see. So in the step definition, what we need to do the following. Note that for the step definition, we say that we should be on Jack's dinosaur page. Okay, so because we get the name, we need to first find the dinosaur and expect that the current path is the dinosaur path. And with that, if we run this again, we should see the bone listed on that page. Okay. Now I'm sure you're probably wondering, how does this apply in all the stuff that we're doing? Well, you're gonna have to do something similar to this demo in as part of your weekend challenge, where we ask you to create comments to the articles. So adding comments to an article. It's pretty much similar to the same example. The comment here will be assimilated to the bones, and then the article will be similar to the dinosaurs, kind of. Okay. Just to get this test to pass, I need to uncomment a few things. All right, let's get this out. Uncomment this, and I kill this one. So all I'm doing here is I'm just checking that I don't want to show this message unless we actually have some bones associated to the dinosaurs, right? That's why I have this test here that says I should see this. And if you look back at the top, I had a test that says we shouldn't see the bones because we don't have any bones, okay? So unless we have some bones, show this, right? And this gets us to the finish line. While it's running that, I'm gonna start the server to show you what it looks like. And we get our test passing, right? So Let's see what we just built now. Where is my tab? There you go. Okay. Right. Localhost 3000. Before I do this, I need to create a dinosaur in my development database. So I'm gonna go to that page. Right, Keybases. Where is that secret file? Someone see a secrets file here? I just created a secrets file. Where is it? Cable. Oh, come on. Really? Where did I create that file? Well, that's odd. Let's see, config. There it is. Well, Atom is going nuts on me now. Configure this from here. Secret. And I'm going to add this one, visual. I'm gonna yank this and add a development block and Shift P, Control P. No. Right. Visual. Yank. Come on. Damn it. Nothing wanna works with me today. Okay, let's do it the hard way. Save that, and where was I? So dinosaur create name is gonna be Jack. Museum number is gonna be 10. What is the other field we needed there? Create dinosaurs. Add attributes to dinosaurs. We need an H. Okay, so
Watch out for the spelling, Raul, otherwise at the beginning, dinosaur.
Right. Where is the typo?
At the very beginning, dinosaur, dinosaur.
Right.
No.
Thank you. Oh. Okay, so we have one. So I can now go back to this page and say I want to go to the show page for that one. Oh, I need to restart this because I updated the file and I have to restart that. Every file that is in the config directory is loaded only when you start the server. So when you make changes there, if you want to see them, you need to restart the server. Great. So now we can see that. We can click on this to add a bone, and then yeah, bone name, whatever. Submit that. When we get back to the page, we can see that here. Okay. Another bone. Submit that. We get back to this page and we see this. Now you can see that if we think back to the articles project that you guys are working on, you will have a show page for your articles, and you should provide the user functionality to add some comments below that article, so that when we come to the page, if we have any comments on that page, we want to be able to read those comments, and we can add some more comments if we need to. Okay. So this is pretty much something that you will have to do this weekend. Right. Comments.
Can you, of course, I guess you can nest more than one, like you can have several nesting options, you know what I mean? It's like if you have dinosaur bone and then like any kind of different element that you want to nest inside it, can you do it?
I've personally only done one level of nesting, which is what I just showed you now. I haven't tried multiple levels. I guess what you're saying is that if we go to route, you add another level here where you create.
Molecule, I don't know, you know, something even.
Right. Let's see. I've never tried this. And I can't think of a use case where we would need to do that.
No, most likely not, of course. I mean, yeah, it's just curiosity to see. Yeah.
Yeah. I doubt that you might, like, it will create that, right? You see what it does here is that it will take the dinosaur and then pass in the dinosaur's ID, then pass in the bone ID, and then something, right? But I'm yet to see a use case for this. Looks like it is possible to do it, you know.
Yeah, basically it's useless to do, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, right. I'm gonna give you a link to this repository just for reference. There is a longer demo. I'm not sure if I should point you to this, where I actually go step by step and implement like the solution, right? So from writing the features to like getting everything done. Like it's a very long demo, probably 2 hours. I don't think you want to sit for 2 hours just watching that. Right? But if you want it, I can find it for you and I will give you. All right?
Yeah, please link it in Slack.
Okay, I'll do that. But this is it for me today. Any questions? Right. Again, some more resources. Associations, you have the Rails guide that will, especially these diagrams here, will be very helpful when you're trying to decide what kind of associations you want to use for your models. Okay, so always think back to this whenever you're designing your ERDs, for instance. Okay. But yeah, and there is another section. So I need to send you this link. And the other link I'll have to share is on routing. Controllers, routing. Let's see. Rails routing from inside out. Nested resources. Okay, there you have. Okay. With some more examples. Right, so I need to send you this and that other link. Okay. That's it from me. Questions? Well, everyone wants to run home now, for those who are still at the office.